Okay. All right. I recorded it. Thanks for reminding me, Holly. Um, just welcome to the fourth meeting on developing a Wolf Lake Watershed Plan. We will continue to discuss sources for funding, the size of the watershed, the report to be given at the 8th Annual Wolf Lake Watershed Advisory Committee meeting on November 1st, and efforts to involve the city of Hammond in the discussion. Valerie, you're familiar with that. And what do we see as the benefits of a watershed plan? And what do the managers see as the benefits? I introduced myself, and Valerie, do you want to continue that?
Sure. I'm Valerie Pennanen, a retired history professor from Calumet College of St. Joseph, and I do serve on the board of OLLI, currently as the secretary.
Holly?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Holly Hudson, aquatic biologist with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, do a lot of watershed-based planning around our Chicago 7-county region that CMAP covers, and excited to have this bi-state collaboration.
Phil?
Philip Willink, and today I'll be OWLI Board of Directors.
Okay. Lindsay?
I'm Lindsay Hilton Adams. I am the Northwest Watershed Specialist with IDEM.
Okay. Joey?
I'm Joey Hines. I am a Robertsdale resident and nature enthusiast.
All right. And Tessa?
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Tessa Murray. I'm the Watershed Policy Manager at Friends of the Chicago River.
All right.
Mike, did you skip me on purpose?
Dave?
Yes, Mike.
Yes, I am. I can't see you, so yes, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm like an omnipotent. You can't see me, but I'm here. I'm Dave Matura. I, like Joey, I'm a Robertsdale resident. I live within a few homes of George Lake. I live within a quarter-mile of Wolf Lake. I'm very interested in both bodies of water, not so much for myself, but for the bodies of water. I'm more concerned about the animals and all the wildlife that these areas support. So I call myself a concerned environmentalist.
All right. Where do we want to begin today?
If I could just interject one more time, if you hadn't had a chance to put your name and affiliation, or hats you like in the chat, so I can capture that in the notes, that'd be great. So I know in the agenda from the invitation letter, I think you already mentioned it, Michael, you know, you had sources of funding, size of the watershed, you know, what report to be given at the 8th Annual Advisory Committee meeting in November.
Yeah, and I was thinking, you know, we were talking about the size of the watershed, and I think we kind of agree that it be not too large. But I got thinking, Dave Daverton's talk at the last year's Wolf Lake Watershed Committee meeting mentioned the work that's had been done on the historic Wolf Lake, or what am I thinking of?
George Lake Ship Canal.
Yeah, and the canal there. And I'm just wondering if that would be a good idea to add, because I normally don't think about it because it's no longer Wolf Lake, but I mean George Lake, but should that be considered as part of the watershed?
I think actually, Tessa, you may want to chime in here. I think one thing you want to keep it a reasonable size, and I think Lindsay, just to refresh my memory, I think on the Indiana side, you prefer to see a complete, at least a Huck 12, right? Not a subset of a Huck 12. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's my understanding that we prefer to do a Huck 12 kind of as the minimum. A lot of times a plan will be, a Huck 10 or multiple Huck 12s. And it may be an option to do something smaller than a Huck 12, but I think to make, a competitive grant application, probably doing the Huck 12 on our side, would probably be the best option.
Okay. So I think that's, yeah. So my suggestion would be looking at the Huck 12s on the Indiana side, which goes up along the Lake Michigan shore a bit more to the east.
Yeah.
On the Illinois side, I think Illinois EPA is, don't have to stick to the Huck 12, but I don't think you want to, so it can be smaller than a Huck 12 on the Illinois side. You can go larger, but I think you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. I mean, I worked on excuse me, my dog is getting into something. Okay. Oh dear, what does he have? Is that an important paper? Oh dear, I'll let him go at it. He's trying to get my attention, obviously. Let's see. Illinois side can be smaller than a Huck 12, right? Don't want to bite off too much more. I think you want to kind of keep it to your, the Wolf Lake, more immediate area. And I think actually I've been talking with Tessa recently about the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. They're looking to do a separate plan for that Huck 12. So they can complement one another, but to put them together, I worked on one plan that was like 3 Huck 12s. It was 100 square miles. There were like 33 municipalities. It was just a little bit too big, I discovered. I learned. Because there are just so many more players that I didn't feel I could do an adequate job really reaching everyone and getting their input. So those are my few cents.
That's fine. That's kind of how I've been thinking all along. I just, every once in a while, something crosses my mind.
Well, Mike, I don't know if you're looking to take a vote on that or get other opinions, but I would keep the canal out of the watershed.
Okay. I think.
Are you guys talking about the Lake George Canal?
Yes.
I mean, it looks like that is included in the Huck 12.
Oh, that is included. Okay.
Okay.
I believe, yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Sanitary and Ship Canal.
But the Indiana Harbor Canal and the Lake
Indiana
George
Harbor
Canal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be included in the Huck 12.
Okay. We already have it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, can someone explain to me what this Huck 12 is, and is there a map that shows it?
Yeah, that's just a watershed size, the hydrologic unit code, that kind of is what we use to do our, watershed planning. So kind of what we call a Huck 12 would be a sub watershed, and a Huck 10 would be what we call a watershed. So it looks like, and you guys, I sent a link. I think Michael sent out an email with my follow-up to some questions last time.
Right.
And it had a link to a map that's kind of helpful on our webpage called the Waters Tool. And that's what I'm looking at right now to kind of click around and see what this watershed looks like without actually having to open, actual GIS. So that's a good way for you guys to take a look at this.
Are you able to share your screen right now, Lindsay, and everybody could see that? This sharing capability?
I probably do. I'm like the least tech savvy person, but I'm sure I can figure. Let's see. Okay.
Look at there. There you go.
Is it
Oh,
working?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Okay. So this little box kind of gets in the way, but what's highlighted here is the Huck 12. So I'll click off for a second, but it goes from, it's called the Calumet River Frontal Lake Michigan Huck 12 subwatershed, and I mentioned it's a little bit confusing because that's also the name of the Huck 10 is Calumet River Frontal Lake Michigan, but this portion is called that as well. And you can see that it goes from, I'll click off that, here all the way down to here. So it ends somewhere around Ogden Dunes.
oh,
So if you
wow.
were to do the full Huck 12, which again may not, I'm going to double check on that. Like I'm still kind of learning the ins and outs of 319. I don't know if that's definitely a requirement, but I know that's typically what's done. So that would be this entire area right here.
Wow.
If you did the
Yeah.
Huck 12, you would have that whole area to do the plan on, and then implementation.
Seems a little bit big of scope.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
Right. So if it's a possibility, to do a subset of the Huck 12 to get, that would be good. Good to know.
Well, and this is only the Indiana
Right.
side as well.
Correct. So there would be the Illinois area added to it. But again, that'll probably be something smaller than the Huck 12 sides on the Illinois side.
Because
Yeah.
I remember at the last meeting we were talking about traditionally the whole Lake Calumet would also be included in this, but we were talking about excluding that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would, okay, so it would be over here.
Yeah, I was thinking of excluding it as well.
I will look into what the options are on scaling this down, and I can follow up with you guys on it.
Okay.
Any examples of projects like that we've done in the past that have kind of focused more on a smaller area.
I think one of the issues we're facing here is that this is just sort of a garbage pile watershed. It's not really a watershed per se. They just don't know exactly what else to do with it, because like over there, Ogden Dunes watershed is not anywhere near what Wolf Lake is like. They're not kind of the same. I mean, they're all Lake Michigan, but so is a bunch of other things. And I think what they have is a bunch of little drainages, poorly defined drainages that are north of the Calumet River that they are defining, or Little Cal or whatever, and didn't really know what else to do with it. And so they're dumping all these things in here because the Lake George Canal, that's a watershed, sure. And so is the Indiana Harbor Canal. That's sort of a watershed. They're separate, but they're not connected to Wolf Lake at all.
Right.
And they're just next to it, and nobody really knew what to do with that. And then once again, Ogden Dunes and is Burnham on here too, or whatever. I mean, those are all separate. And if you were to do a watershed plan for these things, if I was to write one, what I would write for the east end versus the west end would be completely different.
Right.
Which is not typically what we face when doing a well-defined watershed. So we're kind of stuck, which makes more sense. Go to central Indiana or central Illinois, you look at a watershed, you're like, oh, that's a watershed. And I think people will go, okay, that makes sense. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense coming from a sort of scientific, but I understand why they did it, because they're like, what else do you do with it? So I understand that.
Right. It's like all those direct drainage areas to Lake Michigan pulled together in a Huck unit, hydrologic unit code.
No, I see what you guys are saying.
Yeah, it just makes more sense for us to focus on, the more directly around Wolf Lake area, because of the common, land uses and challenges there.
Okay.
And this also includes the old U.S. Steel plant and all the refineries. I mean, Not sure they want watershed plans. Maybe they do, but that's another hurdle. Because they're the significant property holders along this stretch, as well as Gary, Indiana, which is totally different than what you see from Hammond. So it's kind of weird. And I understand why it's weird. And everything in this area is weird, which makes it wonderful on one point, but it also makes it hard to work with. But I will say that those reports that Mike sent out, the old 90s Wolf Lake report and the Lake George, I thought were very helpful. Even though they say it's hard to define the boundaries, if you sit down and look at it, you can figure out what you want to do and you can come up with definable boundaries. Granted, some of these may be drainage ditches along a road, but you can come up with something. At least that's what I took away from those reports and drilling down on those maps.
Okay.
What I don't know and what's important is the funding aspect. For example, through IDEM or through the Illinois side, what is considered acceptable and what is worthwhile, I guess, from their point of view. And that's sort of a separate conversation. And I understand, I get the point of view there too. I'm just not sure how to match these up.
Mm-hmm. Well, if, say if Indiana is willing to entertain a smaller area in their grant through a grant application, smaller than a HUC 12 area, that would be super. And then I think we can, again, the timing of each state's program doesn't quite line up, but I'd say we'd still you might go for both grants in each state side at the same time and bring those together. The challenge is, right, we need each grant would have its own grant, recipient and manager, and somehow, have to have perhaps some sort of MOU to work together. And I imagine there would be some consultant assistance here because some of this is very, like if we have to do some, the pollutant load modeling, for example, could be challenging. There might be some things like the watershed resource inventory type work. We'd like to bring in a consultant to do that work while this group might facilitate the planning effort.
Yeah, that's interesting because we haven't discussed it. But I've been thinking all along that we would have to hire a consultant. And that is one of the reasons that we have to figure out funding.
Right.
Yeah, I just can't imagine not doing it.
Well, and I did like how IDEM lines out, you have the planning and then you have the 319 or whatever. So that made perfect sense to me and all that sort of stuff. So I can see that working.
So you just confused me there a little bit there, Phil. I mean, it's you can get a 319 grant to do the planning, but then you're talking, you can also get 319 grants to do implementation.
I'm going to get the numbers wrong. Is it 305? I'm going to step back. Somebody else, Lindsay, help me out here.
No, you're right. You could apply for 319 for planning as well as implementation. So after the plan is complete and approved by EPA, then the following year or whenever you would apply to actually implement that plan and get cost share money and things like that.
Oh, so right. I think you had 205J in your little memo there.
Yeah,
we don't remember what it said about that.
We have those funds as well. They're usually a smaller amount, and they're primarily only used for planning. So I think I looked into that last time because I'm still somewhat new in this role, but you don't have to apply separately for 205J. So I think that's just something we consider you for when a group applies for a planning grant. Some of those will be funded through 319, and some will funnel into 205J.
Okay. And they both require a match?
205J does not. 319 does, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so is that during the I guess notice of intent period? I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology. Is that when you determine which grant program the final application would go toward? Because the match makes a difference if you have to go have match or not.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm trying to think when I've only been through the process a handful of times. I think we would determine that when we're reviewing applications, which we do in the fall.
The full
you're right,
application or the notice of intent? Because isn't it a two-step process?
You're right. Yeah, but because that's a good point. You would need to kind of know whether to factor in. I think you would probably just apply expecting to have to pay match, to have to contribute match, and then if that's not the case, then we would let you know. But yeah, that's a good question. I can kind of do some further digging on that.
Yeah, I think that'd be good to know up front.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that adds another ball of wax, so to speak. Because if you're doing I don't know, it's the value of your planning project is 200,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have to come up with, what's it, 40%?
Yeah.
Local match, then that's much different than if you don't have to.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I'll double check on how that works and when we decide that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Back to your letter last time, Lindsay. I ended up calling US EPA because I was looking for funding sources, and so I thought, well, they're federal, and so they're automatically by state. And I ended up with getting a response from Stephen Feely.
Okay.
Have you worked with him?
Yeah, our section works pretty closely with him. I don't work directly with him, but yeah, I think he reviews a lot of our plans, and yeah, he's kind of our EPA partner for 319 and TMDL.
Okay,
what's his name? Feely is the last name?
Yes.
Feely, that's Feely.
Thank
you. And Stephen.
Okay.
For Stephen.
Yep.
And so I was expecting him at today's meeting, but at least he'll be on the invitation list for the next meeting. And I also, two others were also planning on coming this time, and they haven't arrived yet. But I just want to let you know that I followed up on your letter.
Okay.
And it worked so far.
Yeah, I think was that the person I was reviewing the correspondence said, US EPA can't provide funds directly. Those funds come through the states.
Right.
Yeah. So you would, those funds are funneled through us, or at the state level. So.
Okay. Yeah, and I think in his response, he said that, and but he said that he could help us out in other ways he thought. So,
Okay, so I think we're getting a little closer on, we'll get some answers on kind of honing in on our planning area. We'll look to apply, see if we can align some applications. Again, the Indiana one was it due in the spring or late with a notice of intent?
Yeah, the NOI I think was June. Sorry, my mouse is. Yeah, for this year it was June 3rd, and then the applications are September 2nd.
Okay. So we're probably looking, the next cycle.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think Illinois, not sure, Illinois EPA, I'll have to.
I know they had a NOFO posted in the spring, and I think it was due around April or May. And at that time, I was in contact with some IEPA folks who said they're planning another round in the fall.
I think we're still catching up on some fiscal year cycles. But we should, it'd be nice if they had another one in next spring too, that would align.
I have a question, just sort of taking a step back, thinking about how these watershed plans typically go from first you apply 319 watershed plan, and then that makes you eligible for a 319 watershed implementation funding. So I'm just curious from this group and all of your experiences with Wolf Lake, what are the desired outcomes? Like, what do we want a watershed plan for specifically?
Well, I think we all have different reasons for it. My particular reason was this, that we can get the managers involved. There are 6 managers, 3 from each state, and I just think that that things could be done with six individuals much easier than with one, as far as taking care of the watershed, but getting funding, because I'm writing grants all the time, and it's much easier if you get a group of people together in writing a grant. And I think to manage a watershed, I think would be cheaper if you would get 6 people involved instead of 1. And that just from a perspective of managing of funding. But
So go ahead.
I'm sure there are other reasons. Bill, what you would have? What reason do you think?
I mean, there's still ongoing development for looking for green development opportunities for if there's more development in the area along the shoreline. Climate change impacts, however you want to phrase that, are always a concern. Water quality is always a concern, since there's fishing, boating, and everything else like that. How do you protect against that? As far as we know, or as I know, there's been no harmful algal blooms in Wolf Lake, but how do we make sure that there are none going forward? So we're looking at nutrient inputs, that sort of thing, protecting it, stuff along those lines. Balancing recreational opportunities because it is a multi-use source. How do you increase biodiversity and still keep people that are angling happy and maintain endangered species in the area and that sort of thing? I'm very fish biased, but we often get inputs from birders. It's a major birding area. And there's a lot of talk about how do we improve habitats along the lake edge to improve birding? And will that have impacts on aquatic life, that sort of, so we need to balance those demands.
And particularly on the Indiana side, there's a lack of plant life in the lake. That's always been a problem, and I assume that might apply to the Illinois side as well. But anyway.
And I think one of the things too is to just kind of identify, like Phil said, there's some green development areas, but also in your already built environment, opportunities for retrofitting, are again already built concrete areas where you can incorporate, say, green stormwater infrastructure. And then you're eligible for those 319 monies to help make that happen.
And I think it was brought up at, I don't know if it was last November or the November before that, that canoeists were blocked from going from one state to the other state. And if you had 6 managers working together, that could be resolved right away. Little things like that. And
Yeah, I mean, I'd also toss out there stormwater and flooding, which gets everybody's attention. That's sort of throughout that whole Calumet region. But that's an issue. So can we find green or blue solutions for that situations like that would be huge.
Phil, I couldn't agree with you more. After a large rain, it's my understanding that the Calumet Avenue and Indianapolis Boulevard sewers dump into Wolf Lake. There's pumping houses at Wolf Lake, and you could see the stormwater discharging into the lake off the roadways. I don't think anybody recognizes that, and I think it would open up some eyes to see that we're still using the lake as a sewer.
Well, I think when the interstate's underwater, people have attentions elsewhere.
And is that just the street runoff, or are you saying it's a combined stormwater sewer?
You know, I don't know.
discharge?
I don't have access to the maps of what that is, but I can tell you that you could see that there's direct flow from Calumet Avenue into Wolf Lake. You could see the small pipes, but then there's 3 yellow brick buildings that the Hammond or maintains. And after a large rain, you could see that it's those pump houses have discharged. I don't know if it's just street water or not, but the fencing that they flow through is packed with litter and all sorts of things I don't want to describe. So it's not clean water and it's not good water. And I don't know. Sure, we don't want the streets flooded, but on the other hand, do we want to dump them in our recreational bodies of water that we have kids swimming in?
Do folks swim in Wolf Lake?
Well, they used to, but now the city of Hammond won't allow it. But you can boat and you can windsurf, so you can immerse yourself in it.
Yeah.
But the swimming per se, no. But fishing and boating and windsurfing, yes.
I was wondering if we could, since the subject of the 6 managers has already come up this afternoon, and some of us may be very familiar with that whole piece and others not, but I'd like to raise a question or two about that, please. Michael recently sent out a copy to a couple of us of Ollie's bylaws, and I noticed that right in Article 1, there is a mention of the Wolf Lake Vision Implementation Task Force. And my understanding is that that was set up, what, about 15 years ago, something like that? And it's supposed to have a representative from each of the 6 entities, someone from the city of Chicago, and of course, Holly, you are from the city of Chicago.
Well, I don't actually represent the city of Chicago, though.
Oh, okay. But it also calls for someone from IDEM, and Lindsay, obviously, that would describe you. But of the 6 individuals that are supposed to be on that task force, which has not met for years and years, and don't quote me, I know we're being recorded, but it's been kind of a standing joke at board meetings that there's never a report because that group never meets. Michael, my understanding is that one individual on there, the one from Hammond, is a specific individual that the city chose, Keith Carey, whom we never hear from. Is that right? Of the other 5, were any of those specific individuals or specific positions with the different city and state governments? Or
Um,
could they be anybody from those entities?
Well, you're talking about, 2005,
Uh-huh.
they were all filled. And one of the reasons why that was established was because when we started planning for a plan for the watershed, I wanted everyone to be represented, and they were.
Right.
And but since that was never fulfilled,
Mm-hmm.
it the six really didn't have much of a reason for existing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
and but I think they should be filled, and they are
mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
I think everyone there, but there's no. So they're a representative to their group, but but that's all.
Well, here's my question or my concern. It seems to me that what our group here is doing is we are undertaking the work that that task force should have been doing for years now. Is that right?
Well, no, I don't think so. I think the task force was just there to, if we in 20 years ago, if we were able to come up with a watershed plan and all six managers agreed to it, then there was no reason for our organization to continue, because this is what we've been trying to do for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I was thinking that as soon as we got a watershed plan, I was gone. And the six should, because I don't want to do somebody else's job. I mean, we've been working for 20 years on helping to improve Wolf Lake and maintain it. But that's a somebody else's responsibility and not ours. We shouldn't be existing.
Okay, so so what we have here does not supersede the task force. It is Ollie's version of what that task force should have been doing. But since they haven't done it, we have to fill in ourselves. At some point, though, it seems to me we're going to have to contact the individuals who are supposed to be in that group and say, listen, here is what we have been doing. And I don't know whether to ask them, do you want to join us? Do you want to start meeting again? Or do you wish to be dissolved? But it seems to me that something needs to be done, that something needs to be addressed with them.
I think the people in those positions will begin participating at some point.
Okay.
And because they've been participating in other ways. They've been attending sessions like this. And so yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. Does that
I
make
mean, you
sense?
can also decide that if you want to form it in a little different way. I mean, if say you got those folks together and you wanted to revise the situation, but I think you still need representatives from all these groups, from the managers. But maybe it expands a little into some complementary organizations.
Yeah,
that care around the region.
they're important to have, and 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 I guess Valerie, you're right that they should start attending these meetings.
Mhm.
And
Well,
actually,
maybe we need to push harder to get
oh
those.
no, I
meetings.
could. I just I can try to get them together at the next meeting.
That
Hammond's
would be great.
representative's not going to be there, won't attend, but
Mhm.
um, because he attended one meeting in 20 years.
Right, no.
So,
Uh-huh. Well, you've had something of a working relationship with Jamie Huck at the Port Authority of Hammond.
sure.
I wonder if you could get hold of her and just bluntly explain, politely but bluntly explain, that
Yeah.
we need someone from the Port Authority, and if Mr. Carey isn't interested, could she take his place, and would she be willing to join us?
Actually, they have a replacement. Uh, Jeffrey Smith, I think is his name, Jeff Smith. I've already added him. He was invited to this meeting today.
Okay,
Um,
sorry, who is he replacing?
um, um, his predecessor.
He's
Oh,
replacing Mylan Krasinski.
Yeah, Mylan.
Oh, okay.
So, and Mylan was invited as well.
Mhm.
But so yeah, we have a third party in,
Mhm.
and I haven't met him. I know of others that have met him, and I was told that he was coming in a couple months ago, but that wasn't a given until just the last week or so.
Okay.
So, but he's the one that we'll be dealing with, and
Okay.
I'll have to schedule a meeting where I could stop by and
That would be
introduce
great.
myself, and
Mhm. Great.
and Joe Kushek knows him fairly well,
Mhm.
so I think Joe and I
That's
can come in.
good. Oh, that's good. Okay, that may finally resolve our issues with getting someone from the city of Hammond to join us. We'll hope so.
Keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, right.
But the rest of them are on that list. Some of them attend other meetings,
Mhm.
but not this one. And I'll try to get them to see if I can get as many as I can
That would be great. Thank
to
you.
attend the next meeting. And definitely they're going to be at the November 1st meeting.
Great, right.
I want to talk about today a little bit too, if we could.
Right.
And
I'd also like to see, if a NERPC folk person would be able to come to these meetings.
okay.
Mhm.
So would Ollie be the sponsor for a 319 grant or whatever type of grant you guys would be applying for?
Yes.
Or
Well,
could it be, but what I was wondering, like on potentially on the Illinois side, it potentially could be CMAP. On the Indiana side, it could potentially be NERPC or AWLI. I just know on the Illinois side, I'm eligible for these. In Illinois, they use 604B funds for the planning grants, and that doesn't require a match.
okay.
So I don't know what some of the again, and only certain entities are eligible for the 604B planning monies in Illinois, and one of them is CMAP. So
Okay, sorry.
So 205J, it sounds like it isn't restricted to, like it could be AWLI could receive 205J funds. Is that correct, Lindsay?
I believe so. Yeah. Again, I think it's probably more likely you guys would be receiving 319 just because we have a lot more 319 each year than 205J. So, but yeah, I think nonprofits, universities, and government agencies can apply for 319.
But NERC is not a bad idea, and I think we could get Kathy maybe involved in that. From NERC, she's the one that I'm most familiar with.
Kathy Luther.
Yes, Kathy Luther. Yeah.
Luther.
And yeah, and she would be the most likely. That's not a bad idea to have NERC in.
That sounds good to me. I think we'll be more convincing once we have a better plan.
Yeah. Okay. So we brought up the November 1st meeting, and I was planning on having a session on the efforts of this committee, and I was besides Holly and Valerie, I was thinking of maybe inviting others from Lindsay and maybe Jeff from Illinois
Mm-hmm.
to kind of discuss what is involved in the process, and if and I can actually email them and or email Jeff and see if he would be willing to do so. He's attended the meetings in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So and there was somebody here that was that I was expecting that didn't show up, and that was Tara, Tara, and her last name was Jagadeesh. Is that Holly? Are you familiar with that?
She's from the Illinois Department of Natural Resource Coastal Management Program.
Yes, Coastal Management Program. So yeah, someone from them maybe would be good. I don't know. But Phil's on the committee, planning committee for that November 1st meeting. So and that is either in person at Calumet College, St. Joseph, or via Zoom. So Lindsay, do you think you'd be able to participate in? It's an all-day meeting, but you're it would be probably in late morning that you could talk about the plan things.
What was the date on that?
Yeah, what
November
we're
1st, isn't it?
discussing now.
It's the first Friday in November. I think that is the 1st. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a Friday.
Okay. Yeah, let me look at my calendar and I can follow up with you guys on that.
Okay.
Great.
And I think I would like to get there in person. So I will plan on that as well.
Okay, that's right. You've never been there. Yeah, and I really look forward to that because that's an opportunity to bring in, to get more people involved, more people interested. And So we can do that still, right? We can. Okay,
Do whatever we want. Yes.
that's right. And I think we've got to kind of set aside for about like 10 to 11 or maybe 11 to 12. I don't know, something like that. Okay.
And I wanted to chime in real fast while I was reading something, trying to clarify on before we move on from the 205J discussion. It looks like actually non-for-profits cannot apply for, are not eligible for 205J. So regional planning commissions are. So I think if NERC,
I've run into
they
that before, and they say, "Oh, you own the land," and no.
So
So
NERC is eligible for 205J.
yeah.
So
And-
that's,
and-
I think, an important consideration,
okay,
since that doesn't
local-
require match.
yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
email Kathy and or Holly, you know her probably.
I know, yeah, we chatted, golly, it's been probably over a year, and I've been meaning to touch base with her again as well. So if you drop her a line, CC me, and we should have a chat.
Okay. Okay. So what else should we be doing today, Holly?
Well, let's see what was on your letter. You're talking of, yeah. Oh, Tessa, thanks for sending that picture of the watershed that went over into Illinois. So yes,
Yeah,
it's
it's
helpful.
Oh, Valerie's been trying to get Dave Hammond involved, and she's been,
Mhm.
standing on
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah, it's not quite worthy of a Greek tragedy, but it's something like that. But again, Michael, I'm encouraged that, you have some connections or potential connections with the Port Authority in particular. If we can just pull one person in, to increase the odds that we won't have a last minute pulling of the rug out from under our feet the way we did in 2007,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, and I'll talk to Steve Smith about, I think his name is Stephen Smith, about that, and maybe I can get him to come to the next meeting.
That would be great. Yes.
And
And I would think NERC would have a relationship with Hammond as well.
That's
they should be,
true.
and so, maybe Kathy has some
yes,
ideas, some
okay,
connections.
okay,
Because, usually also like when I do watershed plan, you form some sort of steering committee, and you want, you want all the municipalities there. Like ideally you want someone from the planning side, some from engineering or public works, some of the environmental groups. So you form a diverse steering committee. Definitely want Hammond to be, represented there.
yeah.
Could be trustees, whatnot.
I do know one individual from Nisource. Someone refresh me on how Nisource is related to NIPSCO. I mean, are they related?
What is Nisource? I'm not familiar with that.
Northern Indiana something, source of that
Yeah, let me see if I
natural
can.
gas or something.
Yeah, okay. The gentleman who's in charge of their environmental policy stuff is a member of my church. So, I could try to get him involved in this as well.
Right, you want
you think that would
industry
be helpful.
involved,
Yeah.
all
Mhm.
the stakeholders.
Yeah, and the third person that we were going to have at this meeting today is someone from industry in Hammond. And Ralph,
Now, who was that?
that's Ralph McCampbell, and he was at our, November meeting last year. And he was, and so he wanted to get involved. And, on his own, he kind of said, I'd like to attend. So, so we'll, and that would be important. We'll probably get several from industry to participate.
Great, great.
So we can just use the November 1st meeting as we can try to get people there that normally wouldn't show up. And that, okay, so I can work on that.
So folks, I do have to leave. I apologize. So, if there's more that's then recorded, I will watch it and add my notes and, try to get them to everybody in a more timely manner. So I'm afraid I have to go.
Thank
So
you.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you,
Holly.
Holly. Great.
see you again
Bye.
soon. Take care.
Take care. So, what other, I think we kind of went through some, the outline I had.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions we need to be talking about?
I have sort of a semi question for Tessa, and I'm kind of curious, if Friends of the Chicago River is working on watershed plans, I want to make sure what we're doing is complementary and that we're not overlapping too much. Kind of roughly, where is Friends thinking of working? I thought someone said sanitary ship canal, but are you looking at CalSag, Calumet River, or any kind of like,
No, that's a good question. Right now, the only one we're interested in pursuing is the Chicago Sanitary Ship Canal subwatershed. So that's sort of like southwest Chicago, all the way south to Lamont area. That was through an assessment that we did of the existing watershed plans in the Chicago Calumet River system. And we noticed that as a major gap area where there's not already been watershed planning efforts in place. There's no watershed plan that's ever existed for that area. So that's what we're pursuing with the IEPA. We're still in early stages there, but we're happy to support this effort as well. And it's also great to have that sort of cross-pollination since we're both sort of trying to do a similar initiative at the same time, different geographic area.
all right, so not CalSag.
No.
Okay, all right. But urban area with next to no streams. So you have
Correct.
smaller challenges as we're.
Yes.
Got it.
It's a very impervious area and little to no big open spaces. So there's a lot of and a lot of industry, of course, too. So all similar challenges.
Yep.
Okay. That was a good question, Phil. And an answer. Oh,
Yeah. Nobody wants to do CalSag apparently.
yeah, I was thinking of Richard Lanyon. His last book was on the CalSag.
Yeah.
And actually, I think he went into Indiana a little bit too, as I recall. But you're probably right.
Yeah, I tease. There's actually some cool restoration stuff with some of the tribs into the CalSag. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's good stuff going on down there, but
there is a lot of stuff
yeah, there's some good stuff going on.
going on there. So there's really good stuff. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think there's any reason for us to continue. The thing that I got certain things to do between now and our next meeting, which will be the fourth Wednesday in September, is that correct?
Mhm.
Which would be the 25th of September. So we'll have it at a meeting at 3:30 or at 3 p.m. on the 25th of September. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to get some more people here, including the 3 that did not show up today. And because we just have to get more people involved and get all 6 areas represented and at the meeting. And I know Valerie's been trying really hard on this, and she really has.
Definitely can't do it alone.
I know. So hopefully I can talk to Steve Smith.
Yeah,
Maybe we
I
can get
hope so. Great.
something
Great.
together. So, but thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in 2 months.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay.
See
Take care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks,
All right.
everyone.